Welcome to the Envision RISE podcast. I'm your host, Staci Hegarty, COO of Envision RISE. Joining me today is Dona Amelia. She is the co-founder of EGN in Singapore and Malaysia. Welcome, Dona. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, very happy to see you.
Where are you coming to us from today?
All right, so today I'm in Sweden. Tomorrow I'll be in Poland, but normally I live in Singapore, Indonesia, and also in Phuket, Thailand.
Okay, so we don't know where to find you half the time. But that is the joy of our very digital economy, right? You can work
Fantastic.
from
Can't
anywhere.
agree more. Yes. And this is the beauty of it. You can always connect with people from across the globe, sharing stories, sharing wisdom, learning from each other. I think it's beautiful indeed.
So let's start with the easy stuff. Why don't you tell our listeners about yourself, about your journey, and then we'll talk about what EGN is doing and really get into some of the topics that you want to talk about.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be at your podcast. Thank you so much. My name is Dona Amelia, originally from Indonesia. I'm the co-founder of EGN Executive Global Network in Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Prior to EGN, I am an award-winning singer, actress, TV presenter, DJ, and also a coach. And now I am involved with EGN as an entrepreneur, as the co-founder. So EGN stands for Executive Global Network. We are the second largest peer network in the world. What we do is to gather all senior executives from different industries to come together, and then they can talk about their challenges, talk about trending topics in the safe environment, meaning that they will join our groups with no competitor. They will come every second month for 4 hours. They will discuss about their challenges, learning from one another, and then making each other better. That's in the nutshell.
Okay, so really you are providing support for leaders in organizations, and oftentimes we find that those are the least supported people in an organization because they end up in these roles where they need to be strong, they need to be decisive, they need to have this persona of what in our minds we think of as a leader, and oftentimes that does not match with what humans need. Humans need interaction, they need support, they need a chance to be vulnerable and kind of talk through the things that are going on, and they don't necessarily want to do that with the people who report to them or even their colleagues at the same level. So talk to me about what EGN is providing people and what a participant or a member can expect to learn and expect to gain from this.
Thanks for the question. I couldn't agree more with what you just say. Indeed, in that position as a leader, sometimes you are lonely at the top, right? That's why our managing director won like the bestseller book for the executive loneliness, because indeed, as a leader, sometimes you don't have anyone to talk to. Yes, as you mentioned, you might not able to talk to, your staff because of whatever reason, maybe confidentiality. Also, like maybe the knowledge are different and all. And sometimes they also stress, and also they always need to look like, Mr. or Mrs. in the know of everything. They need
Yes.
to always able, right? Always able to decide on something in no time, and always need to make a right decision, and so on and so forth. Yet they also in the bubble if they're not having any other, like insight from other leaders. Hence, at EGN, we invite them to join in one group. Let's say if you are CEO, you will go with another CEO from different industries, so you don't feel like you have any competitor in the room. We want the industry as diverse as possible, so then when they talk about their challenges, they can have the ideas or the insight from the other leaders that coming from different industry. Because I believe as a leader, your challenge will be more or less the same. But most importantly, how do you tackle it, right? Especially when you see it in the different lenses from the different industries, for example. And that's what we provide to them, a safe environment where leaders can come together, talk about their challenges, and then discuss, and then can be vulnerable, as you say. It's super, super important. And I think it's not easy to be vulnerable, especially here in Asia. People tend to be, look up really to their persona, as you said. They don't want to look weak. They don't want to look like incapable to do certain things and all. However, leader They are human, as you said, right? They need to say like, oh God, I hate my job this month. Oh, how I hate that project. Oh my God, this is horrible. Oh, whatever it is could be, you see? Because at the end of the day, they are also human. But of course, we understand as a leader, you cannot say that. You cannot be vulnerable to any random people, right? You need to belong to the environment where you can really be vulnerable, you can be authentic, you can tell about your challenges and get some insight. Not only that you can share, but most importantly, you can also learn from another leaders that can get you some ideas on how can you handle those challenges. Because, for example, if you told me, Stacy, what is your current challenge? Blah, 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 blah. And I might been there already and I can tell you the do and don'ts because I've been there. I've been into the bittersweet of all the roads and all, and I can tell you what is my experience and you might want to take something out of it. And the other way around, you might been to the road that I never been and now I'm in that road and you can tell me the do and don'ts. And I think that's the beauty of EGN, Executive Global Network, where leaders can really learn from each other in the similar level in the safe environment. Because I mean, we need to sign the non-disclosure agreement, and also, yeah, everybody understand like whatever happened in room will be kept in the room. However, the learning they need to bring back to their organization and implement it basically. So that's what we do at EGN.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing that are there any trends that leaders have been struggling with recently or have been challenged by that may be able to help some of our listeners who aren't members of EGN or are just feeling very isolated? What are some of the big topics that are being covered lately?
Right. So for the topic itself is varies basically. So just like this morning, I am the host of EGN events. So we not only do the peer group meeting every second month for 4 hours where they can really talk about their challenges. It's like having a group coaching or something like that, right? But every week we also have what we call cross-functional events where we invite all the speakers from all over the world with different kind of topics. And then, yeah, they can learn from the speaker and then they can really interact with the speaker about these certain topics. So for example, this morning I host about strategic thinking. And it's amazing that, get some, like all the tools that it's really complex topics, but with the help of the speaker, make it easy and all. So many kind of topic, including, yes, strategic thinking, of course, talent management is always timely, right? Sustainability, of course, now also one of the highest topic. AI, of course, also, yeah. And then many other topics, especially because we have also like what we call functional group. Like, for example, all the finance leaders will go to the finance leaders group, all the HR leaders go to the HR leaders group. So they will talk about the topic in related to their function, basically. Yeah.
Oh, that's really great. I didn't realize that they were also being broken out into groups that are within their functional area.
Yeah.
So how does it work? You're global and you've got people from all different countries. Are you finding that regardless of country, leaders are experiencing the same thing, or are they having much different challenges depending on where they're located in the world?
I believe indeed, in my experience, EGN members is very global indeed, right? And then I believe all the challenges more or less remain the same. Doesn't matter which country they are coming from and all. However, how they perceive the challenge might be different also, of course, regardless, I mean, because of their culture background and so on, right? So as mentioned, perhaps Westerner or European tend to be more active in the conversation and all, while perhaps, for example, Indonesian or Malaysian or Singaporean tend to be like, observing first before they also engage into the conversation and all. However, I think as for the challenges, it's more or less the same. It's interesting because in every single meeting at EGN, every facilitator or what we call chairperson has their own, signature. One of them is always start with the gratitude moment. So it will, he will say, what are you grateful for this week? And then one person come up like, oh, I'm grateful my CEO being kicked out. Yeah, and then he said, because he thinks that he know Asia, he not. And then I thought he's back me up, but he's not. So I'm happy he's gone now. You see, you can imagine that's, the amount of trust is there.
Yes.
Right. And he being vulnerable because, as a leader, you also sometimes angry with your
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. And then, of course, can you imagine, can he say that in his organization? Definitely not. Right.
Right.
But yes. And having those kind of circumstances or like an area where you can really be vulnerable, be really yourself. It's very important, I think, as a leader, where you can really think and then say what you feel like wanted to say and all without getting any judgment. Because I think leaders also sometimes afraid, being judged by people, like you are this, you are that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm grateful to be able to give the platform for the leaders to really can be themselves. Furthermore, at EGN, we really want leaders to solve their challenges in the very deeper level. For example, in every single EGN meetings, we have what we call advisory board session. Previously, it called hot seat, but then hot seat sounds intimidating. So we changed it to advisory board. So what we do is that a leader who has any challenge, current challenge that big or whatever it is challenge that they have, they can share their challenge in front of everybody in the whole room. And then the job of every other leaders in the room is to give him some suggestion. This is how it goes. So for example, if I mention to you, like, what is my challenges? And then the facilitator will facilitate the maybe 2 or 3 people who wanted to ask me a clarification question. Dona, have you done this? Have you done that? And after that, all the leaders in the room will go to smaller group discussion, try to find the best solution for me. And then in the last 15 minutes, each table will have the representative to tell me what are the insights that they have been discussed to find the best solution for me. So you can imagine now, if I'm sitting with 20 or 25 leaders from different industries, they've been, let's say, the CEO for 20 years or 15 years or whatever. They've been there. They really know what they're talking about. They really know what they do. And they dedicated their time, try to find the best solution for me. It's unbelievable. The amount of knowledge, the amount of wisdom, the amount of insight that I get, it's unbelievable. Because sometimes, I mean, it's great if you go to one company or consultant and all, but you get one insight, right? But when you are at EGN, because again, the members is coming from different industries, so they bring wealth of knowledge. You get some insight that you might not even think about it because they see it from different lenses. So that is amazing. I think, and I witnessed again and again and again, because I'm also one of the facilitator. It's just unbelievable to see leaders being vulnerable, because it's not easy also, you see, to admit that, hey, I need help in front of a lot of other leaders, right? But when you're able to do that, actually people, especially leaders, love to help. They love to contribute and all. Let me give you one other story. In one of the sales leaders group, so all the sales leaders come together in that group. So one lady, basically, she just arrived in Singapore for a year, and then she met her ex-boss from India. And then the ex-boss told her to, hey, what are you doing in the company? Why don't you come back to me? And then we're gonna, repeat all our glory and so on and so forth. And she's in the crossroad. Of course, she cannot mention about this to the company and all. And she put herself in the advisory board, and the whole man in the room challenged her, you see, with all the questions. And then they're discussing, if let's say you go this way, this is probably what's going to happen. If you go this way, is this what's probably going to happen? So at the end of the day, she get the clarity on what she needs to choose. So long story short, in that particular session, the decision is that for her to go back to her ex-boss. Yeah. And then she took it, and now she's super, super happy. She's like even conduct the EGN events where she invite all her bosses from the UK and all in Singapore. I think we have 62 leaders coming. And then she make the opening speech like, you know what, guys, be vulnerable, be brave to ask for help. Whenever you need help, ask for help. If I'm not telling about my story, about my challenge, about what I have in my heart in front of members at EGN back then, I will not be here now. But when you know that you have a platform that you can be vulnerable, speak up and ask for help, and you will be amazed how much help you get. And then look at me, I'm very happy and grateful. So she's really like happy now, and I'm very grateful for that as well.
All right, I have so much going through my head right now, and I've got to figure out how. So what I'm hearing is that your members are building the skill of being able to be vulnerable, building the skill of giving feedback to people who don't report to them. And I think there's some really great things to come out of learning to discuss and give feedback to someone who you have no authority over, who can say to you, that idea sounds ridiculous, or, That sounds
Absolutely.
good, and it also keeps people, because once you get to a certain level of leadership within your organization, chances are you've been not only in the organization, but in the industry for a while, and your thinking
Definitely.
gets stuck. We're human, we get stuck, and our brains kind of map their way back to things that we've learned in the past. And when you are talking across industry with different leaders, across the globe, you're going to get such different insights that, I
Indeed.
may work in automotive and you're working in retail, but
Yep.
they are similar issues that come up that may have completely different solutions within different industries. I'm
100%.
assuming you're seeing a lot of that. I see you're nodding. So I'm assuming there's a lot of that
Definitely.
happens that, oh, we've never done that in the automotive industry, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't.
Yes, definitely. And that's the beauty of this peer network as well, because, the most important thing at EGN is that indeed the learning from each other. So, for example, the topic of the day, because just so you know, in every single meeting, the 4 hours, we divide it into the two sections. One section is member challenges, where member can really talk about their challenges. And then the peer's job is to give some suggestion, right? We have what we call advisory board that I mentioned to you. And also we have what we call wise crowd. In the wise crowd, we put members, let's say a group of 3, and then we give them, let's say 15 minutes each to talk about anything. You can talk about your challenges, ideas, insight, or just wanted to complain about your work or life, you can also do it. Because sometimes you just need a platform to let it out what you're in your heart,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of
And
laughing about the complaining and the
yeah,
anger part, but it's very real. And you can't say it to
exactly.
your colleagues. You can't say it to your boss. You certainly can't say it to the people who report to
Yes,
you. You can't say it to the
exactly,
board.
exactly. Definitely. So they really love these ideas of, really come together, as a peer, get some insight to your challenges, able to talk and so on and so forth. So that's the first 2 hours. We will really discuss about our challenges and get some insight from your peers. And then the second 2 hours, we talk about the topic of the day, whatever the topic is. So for example, the topic is about digital transformation, right? So
Mhm.
what normally we do most of the time, or sometimes we have the expert, the external speaker, or the speaker from our group, because again, they're all senior executive. They bring a wealth
Mhm.
of knowledge, right? So they can be seen as the expert and so on. However, the most important part is the learning from each other. So if let's say it's about digital transformation, if you're coming from the automotive industry, I'm coming from retail, I would love to understand how did you do, I mean, how far you go from your digital transformation journey? What are your challenges? How did you tackle that? And so on. You see, that's what I need to learn from you. And you also can learn from different industry. I can tell how far I am and so on and so forth. So that's the thing that you're not going to get elsewhere. You're not going to get it in the university and so on and so forth, because you really talk with the person who did it, who done
Mhm.
it and so on, right? And also you are in the group with the person in the similar level, because if you're in the similar level, the challenges you get most likely will be remain like the same basically, right? So you can really talk in the same frequency, which is very important also for a leader to be able to do that. So I think it's really, really important for a leader to have this kind of space where they can really thrive, they can learn from each other and then making each other better and eventually grow together. But if they're not comfortable to be seen like this in the safe environment in the group, right? Like Executive Global Network, like EGN, maybe they can also have like some coach, for example, right? Like one-on-one coach. That's also, I think, very good if the leaders want to be like more, like engaged in one-on-one. That's also okay. But nonetheless, whichever way they wanted to choose, I think it's very important for leaders to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to speak up, to be as human as possible, but in the correct environment, basically. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think this is an excellent note for us to wrap up this episode on, because you've told us so much about EGN. However, where can our listeners find out more information if they're interested in possibly becoming a member and learning more about the services and what they can expect?
You can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Dona Amelia, Dona space Amelia. So I'll be happy to chit chat with you and talk to you, because I think most importantly, I'm very grateful to be able to serve leaders, to be better leaders, where they can also learn from other leaders, from wide range of topics or leadership skills and so on and so forth. And most importantly, for you to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to be yourself and to be as human as possible, because eventually we care about you. We understand you care a lot about your people, your employees and all, and who cares about you. I just wanted to say that, as a leader, very important to care about yourself. And at EGN, we care about you. I care about you. Yes.
I love that you are providing something that many leaders don't think that they need a lot of. They feel they put their energy towards caring for their organization. And the question is, who cares for the leaders? And it sounds like EGN cares for the leaders. So Dona Amelia, thank you so much for your insights today. I hope that a lot of listeners will seek out this kind of support that EGN is offering. And for our listeners who want more information about Envision RISE, you can find us at envisionrise.com.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And so with your help, we can get this message to more people. Subscribe, rate, and review the show, and be a part of making a difference, because it starts with you.